Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the home dressing room here at Meadow Lane. And who's our special guest this evening? It's none other than the December Vanarama National League Manager of the Month, Neal Ardley. I'm sure you'll all join me in the comments by wishing Neil, by congratulating Neil on what is a fantastic achievement. What's your initial reaction to the news?
Obviously, it's nice to get any sort of accolade, although as a manager you don't really look for personal accolades. The team's really a reflection of what you do. So, I always look at Manager of the Month, and I think basically it always says that your team's probably the most informed team of the month, and that's the reflection. So for me, the key word there's team. The players have put their bodies through hell throughout December and a tough schedule that the staff have been in constantly, and whether it's be sports science or physios or Coxie and that working their socks off, and the team has done great, and they put my name to the award, but really it's to say the team's done so well, really.
If you could pinpoint one moment in December, for me personally it would be the Halifax away game. Really sticks in my mind. But for you, was there any sort of anything you noticed particularly in training or in any of the games which made you realise that it was going to be a good month?
I think, to be honest with you, like you say, the second half, the way we come back at Halifax was great. But I think when you look at the Chesterfield game before that, it was probably one of our worst performances of the season, and yet we were resilient in our defending and managed to come away with a 1-0 win. And our problem up until in our sort of so-called sticky spell happened to be that we were conceding too many goals. So to get that clean sheet on the board, Alex Lacey obviously got himself on the pitch and fit, and I think that was an important moment because him and Connell struck up that relationship at centre back, and sort of we've kept a lot of clean sheets and kept certainly the goals we've been conceding down, and I knew that would be a main factor in us doing well again.
Well, congratulations on a fantastic achievement. Obviously, this is your opportunity, everybody at home, to put some questions to Neil. He's always very open and honest. And Neil, I know you like the tough questions as well, don't you? You're not averse to getting a few of those through as well. So if there's anything you want to know, I'm sure the gaffer will do his very best to answer it. To get things going, we've got some pre-submitted questions. So thank you to everybody who left those with us on Facebook earlier. And I've got my phone in my hand here, so I'm going to be keeping an eye on all of your questions coming through live. So keep them coming. If I miss them, I apologise. Repost them. We'll do our best. We've got about an hour with the gaffer if he's feeling generous, so we should get through plenty of different topics, and it should be a good evening. So we'll start with one from Nigel Natris. This was sent to us earlier on Facebook. It's often said that our stadium and its facilities, here we are in the home dressing room, which is obviously fantastic. They inspire visiting National League teams to raise their game. Does that ever work the opposite way for your players, Neil, when we go to less glamorous places? Nigel says, for example, like Maidenhead or Dover.
No, I don't think it does. I think we've got an experienced bunch. When you look at the likes of Ben Turner, Doyley, Jim O'Brien, Damien McCoy, these sort of players, I think there's a lot of humility within our squad, and they see it as a determination that this is a test of our character. We're coming here. Fans feel like the dressing rooms aren't very big and the pitch is a bit bobbly and whatnot, and we're not gonna raise our game for it. We're not gonna be able to handle it, and they see it as a challenge to their mentality sometimes. And I think they go in and they put in a performance the majority of the time that belies putting on a Notts County shirt. So no, I wouldn't say so. I think if you had some younger players, some players that had come through it from maybe big clubs and stuff, I think it may become a problem.
Question from Oliver Bordino. Do you think this team could be competitive at a higher level, or are there more improvements required if promotion was to occur?
I think you always need to improve. I think being at the top end of the National League perhaps would give you a chance of being competitive in League Two at best. I don't think it would get you beyond the sort of realms of the top sort of 12 to 14 teams. I think there's a bit of a difference. I think we found that to a degree at Northampton, although we created a hell of a lot of chances and dominated spells of the game. They were ruthless within their set pieces and their chances they did have. So I would say that we probably need to improve, but that's not to say we'd need to improve with better quality players. We'd need to improve both. The squad need keep moving forward that we've got now, and we'd probably need to add one or two to it.
Okay, hopefully that answers your question, Oliver. On to one from Luke Beardsley. What was the obviously playoffs is now the big narrative, understandably among the fans, with us having broken back into the top 7. What was the secret to your playoff success with Wimbledon, and do you think Notts could do the same? So what elements made that Wimbledon team a success in the playoffs and might be transferable here if we were to get that far?
I think there is some similarities, because I've referred to it a couple of times, even with the players. I think at Wimbledon, for the first part of the season, I think we got to Christmas or January time. I think we were about 12th in the league in our playoff winning season, and the majority of the time we'd go in the opposition manager's office after the game and we'd be talking, and they'd say you're one of the best teams we've faced. We haven't played a team as strong as you, and we'd be there like thinking, well, why are we 12? And I think when it came down to it, the key was we were conceding sloppy goals, whether it was from set pieces, or general play. We was conceding poor goals, and the moment we cut that out, well, not cut it out completely, but limited that, was the moment that we went on an unbelievable run. And I ended up speaking to a guy after the season when we'd won the promotion, and he worked for a betting firm, and they used to use all the expected goals and stuff like that, and he said, we knew that you had a great chance of promotion even around the Christmas period. And I was like, well, how did you know that? And he said, well, you were second in the league as far as performance narrative on expected goals in each game. Right. It was only Portsmouth at the time that were better than you. So we knew you were stronger in your 12th position, which is kind of similar to stuff that goes on now, particularly with our owners, the knowledge that sometimes you might lose 1-0, but you're on the right path. Yeah. And so people, opposition managers had said it, and put that together with all the data. The second half of the season, we took off.
And that sort of data is is crucial to your own work these days, isn't it? And as well as the owners. Was that a turning point for you, that realisation that sort of data can sort of reflect your team better?
I think it can just, when you're having a tough time as a manager, and fans might not be happy, or can be calling for your head, or moaning, or whatever happens, which is natural. It happens up and down the country. As a manager, you're looking for the answers, and you're the one that's got to find them. And sometimes you can look and try and change things that don't necessarily need changing. Yeah. You just got to keep it rolling and cut out little errors, and before you know it, you can turn it into good form. Another thing on that promotion winning season that we did was we really periodised the season well, which is people might not know it, but we planned our whole fitness element for the season so that we'd finish the season strong. And as we got to the second half of the season, that last 10 games, pressure mounts, and we had a lot of players who had been through promotion. I think we had about 7 or 8 players in our team that had promotion through playoffs and through. So we had that knowledge and experience, and then building in even to the final, going in through the playoffs. We gave the players lots of time away from the place. We planned it. We felt like we planned it really well, and we'd heard that the team we were playing in the final had been in training a lot and doing double sessions, and by the time it got to the end of the season, we looked by far the freshest team in the playoffs. And I take a lot of knowledge and confidence from that, and hopefully we've certainly got some players that have had promotions in this squad. Absolutely, and if we can take that and look to finish the season strong when everybody else is flagging, hopefully that could be a key factor.
Fingers crossed. Now, obviously, we know that football managers are the face of their club. Fashion sense often gets heavily scrutinised. I mean, we've all seen the video of Pep Guardiola versus Neil Warnock. Warnock obviously favouring the usual tracksuit. Pep a little bit more extrovert in his taste. So I wonder if we'll get many questions about the gaffer's fashion sense. Yes, Josh Brown. Where do you get your smart jumpers from? I've long admired your collection of what, from a distance I admit, seem to be really good quality garments. I'm looking for something to wear over a smart shirt at work to make it a little more casual. It would be great to get your input on size, fit and colours too. So a lot to digest there, Neil, but some general fashion advice for Josh wouldn't go amiss by the looks of it.
My initial reaction, being a typical football man, is this is a wind-up. And somebody's...
I think it seems quite sincere.
It does, but it's probably one of the lads coming in under a silly name trying to...
Josh Brown, well, we're going to hunt you down, Josh.
Yeah. If it is genuine, I better answer it like it's genuine, but I think it's probably a wind-up. I do most of my shopping, or my wife does most of my shopping, probably in Zara or River Island. And
how much have they paid you for that? that little mention.
They're giving them a little mention there. So I can't afford the expensive uptown garments. So yeah, just try and get the right size. Slim fit, size. And
slim fit. I would agree with that. The one thing you've got to worry about with jumpers over shirts are the buttons showing through the jumper. Have you had that problem yourself before, Gaffer?
I might have done before, but I've tried to. I've got no real set. This is my style. I don't even think about it. I just try and.
It's all natural.
No, it's gone. When I first got the manager's job, I thought I'd be a suit manager. And I wore a suit. Then I started not wearing the tie, and then away from home it was too much hassle to take the suit with you. So I started wearing tracksuits away from home. Now I just try and go something that I feel nice and relaxed in. But through the winter months, I've actually bought a thicker jumper than the ones I was wearing in the summer. Yeah. So just to keep the cold away.
Hopefully some inspiration in there somewhere for you, Josh. If that was a real question, we will be investigating after the broadcast is finished. Stephen Hallam, hi Neil, great Christmas period from you and the lads. I was wondering, what's been the highlight of the season so far?
Oh, that's a good question. It's a difficult one. I think, in all honesty, probably the week leading up to the season when our owners took over. It's hard for me because obviously we've been through so much in the summer, and not only do you worry about the people that work here, you worry about the club, the fans, the history. I know I spoke to loads of people before that have supported this club for 40 odd, 50 odd years, and you just think, God, this can't happen to them. So all of them people come first, and it was unthinkable what might happen. So to get to the point where the new owners came in and the club was sold and things were saved was great. Then obviously from a personal point of view, I had no idea whether their plans were to bring in their own guy or not. So you've been through a summer, you wait for that. But then I think after I met them and I sat down with them and I listened to them, I was hugely impressed. And from that moment on, it kind of, every ounce of motivation I needed after what we'd been through was there. Was sort of doubled and trebled. Therefore, you had a motivation to do right by a club because of the fans, but to then get to that point, meet these new owners and go, wow, this could be something really good. Yeah. I think that was probably the highlight, and then obviously within the games there's been some
great moments,
some great
goals.
We've had some several goal of the month competitions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You mentioned the owners there. Obviously, we don't hear from them very much. Fans certainly haven't heard a great deal from them. What are they like at close quarters in terms of when you go in for your meetings with them and Richard Montague? What sort of feel do those meetings have?
Highly intelligent, super intelligent. I think I'm always one of these people, wherever I've been, when I was academy manager or manager of Wimbledon, that if I'm going into a meeting, I always think I want to be the most educated person in that room, because it's important that you're prepared and you know what you're going in and what you're going to say. I don't feel that way with our owners. I think on football terms, I know what I'm doing football wise, but they're so intelligent, so thoughtful. They've already planned. We'll go and sit down with them. We'll talk about where we are and how we've played and what we need to do going forward. And they've already come up with some numbers, some stats, and some analysts to it, and that I didn't even know myself.
But some managers wouldn't like that, would they?
No, it's great. You've got to learn. You can't think you know it all. I don't know it all for sure. And even my management style with my staff, you empower your staff to do the jobs that they're specialists at, and that's part of management. But with these guys, they're really intelligent, really thoughtful. They're football people. Business is business, and it's like most of the time you have a chairman, it's business. So if I want to sign a player and I'm really excited about a player, I have to sell why I want to sign that player to a normal chairman. Listen, they won't know much about him, but they'll take your word for it. These guys are completely different. They've got an incredible knowledge, and they'll give me as much data as I'm excited about the player from my own eyes, and it's just great to work that way.
Sounds great. Yeah, it sounds fantastic. We'll get through a couple more of these pre-submitted ones. I can see your comments are streaming through. Please keep those coming, and we'll get onto those ones very shortly. There's a couple I just want to cover off. First and foremost, Hadrian Smith. Obviously, we're in the dressing room here. The dressing room's all set up for the game tomorrow. Are you playing a full-strength team on Saturday, Dagenham in the FA Trophy? full strength
We
team.
just put these shirts up to make it look good, so nothing to... No, it depends on what the meaning of full strength is. You know, we've got a few injuries, as you know, with Jim O'Brien and Ben Turner and Regan. So with what we've got, you know, the rest of what we call the core first team squad, they're all going to be involved. You know, 7 subs on the bench, so there's nobody left out that isn't injured. Whether there's one or two changes, you know, you have to consider. One, you have to put your trust in players who, whether they've played or not, that they're good enough. And the second thing is, then you know, you might need them next week or the week after. They need to be ready, even if they are or not in your plans for Tuesday. So it's the right thing to do to get the balance right. We want to win the game. The team we put out is strong enough to win the game if they play well.
There you go. One player that won't be playing tomorrow is Jim O'Brien, of course. Ethan Sloan is just asking for an update on him and when he's likely to be back. Will we see much of him before the end of the season, do you think?
Yeah, I think the news on Jim will be a lot better than probably you think by that message. You know, it was a tricky one. We didn't know how it was going to work because of the severity. I don't think many of us have seen too many injuries like that. But Jim's back running on the grass at the moment. He's starting to do ball work. He's moaning, which tells you he's getting closer to being...
That's definitely Jim. It's
definitely a good sign. So the idea is that we'll, over the next couple of weeks, phase Jim back into training. So there's every chance that Jim will be fit to train over the next couple of weeks and start to join in. But obviously the one thing that would make a huge risk of him getting injured again would be the fact that he's short of match fitness and training fitness, and that's when you can sometimes pull a different muscle. So we've got to get that return to play right, but hopefully, fingers crossed, you know, at some point in the first week or two of February, Jim could be getting himself back in contention.
Fingers crossed. Right, we'll take some of your questions live now, so keep them coming through. If I miss yours out, feel free to post it again. We'll do our best. Steve O'Smeet says, a well-deserved Manager of the Month award. Well done. It's great that we've signed Kyle on a permanent contract, but will there be any further signings in order to strengthen our promotion/playoff push?
You can never say never in this game. I'm certainly not pushing for any new signings. We are looking very closely at several players. You know, sometimes there might be a really good player that's available and now's the time to sign him for the future. But we're looking at several, but whether anything happens this January or not, I've got no idea. You know, if all of a sudden we decided, or the owners decided that, yeah, let's go now and one for the future that we helps us push for promotion as well, then great. But if not, with Jim coming back, hopefully Ben, Regan, eventually we feel that we'll have more than enough.
Honest comment from Darren Handley. I, for one, didn't like some of your tactics and said I'd give you until Christmas. He says he holds his hands up and that he got it all wrong. He says congratulations to you and on a well-deserved award. You mentioned it earlier that, you know, it's part and parcel of football that people make quite quick judgments and quite honest judgments. It's water off a duck's back in a way, but is it nice to prove people wrong in the nicest possible way and come out of a really good spell with people starting to really rally behind you?
It's nice to have people rallying behind you or supporting you. That's nice, you know. Football's, we all know, and it's not a criticism of fans. I think around the world, football's quite a fickle sport. You know, 1 minute you're on top of the mountain, the next minute you're down the bottom, and you know, results can turn. You know, anything can spiral, a good run or a bad run. So, you know, hopefully we've had our little sticky run. Although, you know, it's funny because we put all the results. We put 3 different blocks up on our whiteboard in our office so that we got our fixtures lined up, and then we look at the result. We put the result behind us alongside each fixture. And in that middle block, we had the first block, we rubbed all them out, put the new block up. In the middle block, we actually had 19 games in there, including cup games. And we won 10, drew 5 and lost 4, which is almost, if you put them all into league games, was almost top 3 form. Yeah. And that was with our sort of sticky spell where we had a difficult spell in the middle. So you kind of come out of that thinking, that wasn't as bad as we thought. But at the time, you're in your own bubble and it feels like everything's going wrong, you know?
And there is an expectation at Notts County, isn't there?
Yeah, of course.
That's the bottom line, isn't it?
Of course. I hope. You know, I said right from the word go, you've got to respect the league, and I hope that, having seen the games, I hope that a lot of our fans that have been home and away look and go, there's some strong teams in this league. You know, we went away to Harrogate. I know we was early season and we were all over the shop as a club, but I thought Harrogate was strong. And even when they were down in that bottom third early on in the season, I said, I'm surprised Harrogate are there. I think they'll be all right this season. And they're right up there now on a great run of form. You look at Dover were excellent. Not Dover, sorry, Barrow were excellent against us. You know, really good. And it's no coincidence they are where they are in the league. Yeovil, although I thought we deserved to win there, are strong, and they obviously only come down. You go through the teams and you think, you know, even if you can make the top 7, it's a strong 7. You know, Bromley came here the other day. You know, we had to fight tooth and nail to get anything out of that game. And you know, there's some strong. Solihull Moors, another big, powerful team with good players. So, it's going to be a tough one to get there.
Well, this sort of leads nicely on to Damien Widowson's question. We currently sit 5th in the league. What was your expectation for this stage of the season in the summer?
I think I got asked this question. I think Lee Curtis probably asked me, or Charlie, right at the start of the season, what was expecting. And we was in, obviously, as we know, we was in a bit of turmoil trying to sign all them players early on. And I sort of said early on in the season, probably for the first third of the season, we need to try and hang on in there and pick up as many points as we can just to stay on the coattails of the top half. And then as we establish ourselves, hopefully we can have a little bit of a push and be up there or thereabouts. So to sort of get going into towards the final third of the season where we are, I would say is probably slightly above what I might hope for. And that's not me being negative or pessimistic. I just don't know how many people know how hard the start of the season was and how hard it is when you've got 14 games in 50 days and you've got players who haven't had a pre-season, who haven't kicked a ball, who haven't run, and you're trying to bring them all together, get them fit with Saturday, Tuesday, hardly any training sessions and pick up points along the way and not get them injured. And all of them things, we come out of it with a little bit of a, you know, blimey, how have we done that and hung on in there?
We know you're a big family man. Mark Lakin asks, do any of your kids have a Notts County shirt?
They do. My 2 daughters have both got them. I think they wear them as nighties. I bought sort of size a little bit big so they can wear them as nighties. And even my little niece got it as a Christmas present with Uncle Neil on the back. So
Lovely.
So they've all got them shirts, and hopefully they'll be wearing them for a few years to come. If that makes sense.
Yeah, sounds good. We said that we wanted some tough, hard-hitting, difficult questions. Back Neil into a corner. Craig Ashley, what are you having for tea tonight?
Well, actually, I can answer that as though I've already had it.
Okay.
So one of our staff is moving on to pastures new, so we've just all walked across the road and had some food, and I had a couple of Diet Cokes with him. They're still over there now probably having a little drink, and so I had a couple of Diet Cokes and some food. So I had a Cajun chicken burger and some skinny fries with the skin on. Very nice.
Rating out of 10?
Solid 7.
Solid 7. We won't tell you where it is. You'll have to go and find it for yourself. Gavin Ralph, if you could sign one EFL player, who would it be? So let's maybe sort of in League One, League Two.
Otherwise we'd be going Championship. I think League One, League Two. Cool.
And try and add a bit of context of what it might add to the team that's different to what we've got, maybe.
Yeah.
Just to make it even harder for you.
Good question. I think you can never have enough forwards in your team. I think I'd probably look at somebody like John Marquis.
Right.
He's at Portsmouth now, yeah?
Somewhere like that. Was he used to be at Millwall, was he?
It was Millwall, Doncaster, Portsmouth. Someone like John, I think, is probably a bit different to all the strikers we've got. He scores goals, but he's a bit... his work rate is rough and tumble. He can play as a target man, he can play off a target man, he can do a number of the different, doesn't stop running. So I think somebody like him would you can never have enough forwards, because I like my forwards to, as much as possible, go hard for 65, 70 minutes, and if I have to drag them off and bring fresh legs on, then great.
Okay. Steve Crane, interesting question. Why do you sometimes play without a backup goalkeeper on the bench?
So interesting one, because we had a big discussion as owners with the owners early season. So I'm obviously used to having 7 subs. So when you have 7 subs, you can have your goalie on the bench. You normally need cover for full-back. Sometimes somebody who can cover both sides. You need a centre-back. So, you know, if the team bring on, you're holding on to a lead with, and they're only going to score from a set piece, you want to have a centre-back to bring on, or if one of them gets injured, so that's 2. Centre midfield is normally a specialist position, so you need one of them. Your wide men and your centre forwards are the ones likely to tire, or that's where you want to change the game normally and have an effect. So you've already used 4 subs at that point, having a goalie, cover at the back and in midfield, and then you really want 2 centre forwards, which is 6, and a wide man, which is 7. So in an ideal world, that's your sort of bench. Worst case, we've only got 5. So all of a sudden now you put a goalie on the bench, and then you haven't got no cover at full back, or you then want to put a centre half on the bench, and then if you put a centre mid on the bench as well, because you need that position, then all of a sudden you can only have 1 forward, 1 wide man, and then the game changes. So for me, it's a risk. We looked at the stats. We didn't just make a decision. We looked at the stats on how often goalies go off injured or get sent off, and so on and so forth. And we just said, you know, it's a calculated risk. There might be the odd game that you might being a big word, if it happened, you might lose or suffer from by doing it. But we think there'll be more games that the 2 forwards or the wide man or the options you've got on the pitch. It's worth the risk almost. It's worth the risk. Balance all the numbers it's nothing personal. I'd like to have a goalie on the bench, of course, but I also like to have 2 forwards, a winger and centre midfield and a centre half.
Well, how frustrating is it that the National League's policy is that it's only 5 then? Do you think that's needs looking at, or do you think it's fair enough?
I know why they do it. I think, you know, financially, you know, if you have to have an 18-man, or if you can have an 18-man squad, you normally look at carrying a 22-man squad, so you've got that little bit of excess. I think some teams can't afford to carry huge squads, so they, you know, 16 gives them the option of carrying a little bit less. So I see both sides of it. Just personally, you know, I want to be able to change a game to win it. And that means putting 2 forwards, a wide man if possible, on the bench, but then you need cover for all sorts of positions.
For me, this man's been very selfish by submitting a question, because he always gets to ask you questions. It's Lee Curtis, but we're going to humour him, and you're going to have to provide a bit of context in your answer here. But he wishes you, well, he says congratulations on the award, and at what point will you need to invest in a bigger shed? And if you could please explain why you said that for the viewers at home, that'd be helpful.
So obviously when I've got the award, Lee is. I told Lee that none of my football memorabilia seems to end up in my house. We had a study in my house that housed all my England under-21 shirts, all the countries I played against, my caps, you know, memorabilia from Wimbledon, all the stuff that Manager of the Month awards, whatever, were all in this room. And that room has now been turned into a makeup stroke eyelash room in our room with a treatment bed in it, and everything's taken off the walls. It's been decorated in a lovely makeup type style. So now down the end of the garden there's a shed with loads of things that are bubble wrapped to keep them safe, and that's everything about my if you come in you'd never know it was Neal Ardley's house.
The Neal Ardley Museum, he likes to call it. Well, fingers crossed there'll be many more awards to come in that bigger shed. Lee will have to get you around to build one for the gaffer at the bottom of his garden. Sarah White, who was your best teammate at Wimbledon? Let's go for best personality and best player at Wimbledon.
So I'm very, very good friends, and I still am, with Neil Sullivan, the goalkeeper. Ironically, I brought him in to help me out the year we was trying to, my first year as a manager, to stay up from relegation. He came and played in goal for me, which was quite great to have a really good mate, and him calling me gaffer. That was quite nice. But he's a very good friend, and I still see him regularly, and so he would be the best personality. I think the best player, I mean, you can look at players in all sorts of ways. Who was the best in training, technically, who looked the best. There was a number of different things, but probably the player who affected games of football the most was probably Robbie Earle.
Right, yeah.
You know, as a box-to-box midfielder. They don't make him like him anymore. You know, technically he wouldn't ever admit, and in training you'd never think he was the best player, but he scored 15 goals a season from midfield. He arrived in the box. He was incredible with his timing in the air, and he affected games of football regularly.
Gary Blake with an interesting question, and I'd imagine it's one that a lot of fans have actually considered since the takeover. Will the owners be looking at bringing in players from Denmark? Do you sense that that's a real objective of theirs, or are they looking more broadly potentially at a foreign market?
I think the answer is it could happen, but it wouldn't be
for that reason.
It wouldn't be that they were looking to, they were looking to sort of bring their country over, so to speak. If one of the best options financially, value for money, and the qualities that they'll bring to the club is Danish, then by all means they'll sign him. But if he was Polish, if he was English, if he was from the National League North, it doesn't matter. Everything will be scrutinised and analysed. Recruitment is the most important thing in football. You get your recruitment right and the structure right, you've got a better chance. And if you get it wrong, you can end up in financial difficulties with a team that's not good enough for the level. So these guys are spot on. So yes, there may be some foreign players possibly being looked at or with a chance of coming in. But believe you me, if they are, there'll be players that, through all intents and purposes, are our best option.
Here on merit, rather than just as a token merit,
sort of wherever they're from, they'll be the best option that we've found for that position.
As a man who values recruitment so highly, how exciting is it to have that door open in the sense that Football Radar obviously have an eye on leagues across the world? Is it sort of exciting for you as a manager to have that sort of extra edge and potentially a bit of knowledge from further afield?
It's, I never had any recruitment at Wimbledon for 6 years. We had to do our own, and it's hard when you're running a team to know what's out there and,
of course, and
stuff like that. So the summers were tough, trying to get ahead of the curve with other clubs who had it. I know how important it is, and I know how tough it is. What we've got to remember is that, this isn't our new owner's third football club that they've bought. It's their first. Yeah. So I think we're all learning and all developing. They've got good ideas, great ideas. They've got models that they'd like to try and put in place, and structure they'd like to put in place, like any club would, to get it right. But we're all learning. And the beauty of it is we genuinely do work really, really well together. There's open dialogue. We've put players in and said, can you have a look at this guy? We really like him. What do you think? And they've come back and so on and so forth, and vice versa. They put players saying, we like this guy. What do you think? And it's healthy, but we're all evolving. We're all learning. I think it'll only get better and better.
Yeah.
What we did in 2 weeks at the start of this season was pretty remarkable.
Agreed.
Given where we were and how much business everyone else had done, I think that shows the potential of what could happen further down the line.
Massively. Question from Ian John Simpson. He asks, when will the scoreboards be ready? So many of you will have seen on social media recently that the scoreboard's gone. It's been evacuated from Meadow Lane, so progress is being made. So we're hoping towards the end of the month we'll be able to announce that a new one is up there and it's working fine. I think I'm actually going to be the one running it on a match day, so just cut me some slack if the first few games are a little bit ropey. I'll be doing my very best to make sure it's all working fine. But on the scoreboard, as we announced at the Fans Forum, they've both been paid for by the Official Supporters Association and Lifeline, two organisations who are massively helpful, not only to the club over the years, but especially in the summer with contributions to unpaid salaries and things like that. Neil, in terms of organisations like Lifeline and the OSA, what sort of a community feel do you think there is around this club? Because Wimbledon's a similar club, isn't it? We're relying on the fans to support.
Yeah, Wimbledon, they had a lot of volunteers, used to do a lot of work that saved them money, and they were fans, but they had the best interest of the club at heart, and it made it work. They had some different organisations. At Wimbledon, they had a club called the Blue and Yellow Club, and they did things that they got some benefits from being part of the Blue and Yellow Club, but it put money into the first team budget, or because we was obviously a very low income club. But I think they've seen it even with Bury, with what happened with Bury in the summer. Them supporters fighting tooth and nail, trying to raise money, trying to keep the club alive, and the same happened here, where they were there at a time of need. They were there. They want to improve the club. I know they put money in for the pitch, to do work on the pitch, maintenance on the pitch. They've done loads of stuff, and you just can't. I think all football clubs should be the community, the hub.
Yeah.
You know, it should be a place for people to come and support and be part of it. So to have these organisations that just give so much back is up and down the country, but it's fantastic.
Yeah, massive thank you. And Neil's recently signed up to Lifeline, so there's no reason why you can't. £2 a week. Even I think I won 100 quid. I won 100 quid the other week, so it's well worth being in there for. Robert Wardle. Hi Neil, congratulations on the award. How much more potential would you say there is in a player like Enzio Baldwin? Is he a future higher league player, do you think?
I think he is. I know he's, what's Enzio now, 26, 27, is he?
Maybe even slightly younger, I think.
Is he? I don't know. Or maybe I've
mid-20s, yeah.
Maybe I've overcooked him a left with me now. Yeah. But I think, you know, Enzio has that something that not every player has. You know, he's exciting. You know, every time he gets the ball and you know he's in a 1v1 situation, you know, you think, God, go and do what you can do. So
yeah,
I think the one thing that you normally get, I've worked with a lot of players with 1v1 domination that have got Enzio's type of abilities, but a lot of them choose a lot of wrong options a lot of the time. So when it's on to pass, they won't. When it's on, you know, and vice versa. Enzio's the beauty of Enzio is he does know when to pass. He knows when to go and take people on. He knows when to pass. So I think he's got enough in the armoury to play at a high level for sure.
You rate him defensively as well, don't you? You like the work. You like a lot of the work that he does.
Well, again, you know, people like wingers. You know, if I said to a typical football fan, would always go, "Yeah, I want him in the team. I want him." You want exciting players because you're in an entertainment industry. If I put all the most exciting players that we've got on the pitch together, we wouldn't be keeping clean sheets. And ultimately, it's always that balance in everything you do. So, you know, I've seen it. The most common theme in football nowadays is trying to play one striker. Certainly in the top 3 leagues, probably is trying to play one striker. So, you know, if you play one striker, we ain't got enough goals in the team. You know, you play 2 strikers. So if you play 2 strikers, a lot of teams now will play 3 at the back to be strong through the middle of the pitch. And so, all right, we'll play wing backs and we'll give you the wide areas. So you don't have wingers. You have wing backs, but you wanted that. You have to sacrifice that to be able to get 2 strikers on the pitch. A lot of people don't play 4-4-2, and if they do, it's very functional. We're trying to play 4-4-2 and make it fluid, which is never easy because it's not a system that creates overload. So we're trying to create them within the system. So that way, we're trying to play wingers, and 2 forwards. Yep. So we've got wide men in the team and 2 forwards, obviously to try and give us that edge going forward. Well, but they need to do the other side, and it's hard. Not a lot of players, young players particularly, are brought up on how to play in a midfield 2. How to play wide in a 4. They brought up to play wide in a 3 with that extra protection. So it's a lot harder to you're a midfielder and it's hard for people. But Enzio does it great. Ozzy's learning it. Shieldsy gives it everything to apply to it. They get it wrong sometimes because they're wide men, but you just hope the team doesn't suffer when they do.
See, when you hear answers like that, you realise football isn't necessarily as simple as you think. Damien Widdowson, away from football, Neil, do you have any hobbies? Do you have time?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I like a game of golf. Yeah. Coxey's very good. I get fed up playing him because I must have to pay for dinner. The majority of the time, Coxey plays off 3. I play off 15. So he's a tough cookie to play against. But I like golf. I like a day at the races, going to the horse racing. Recently at Nottingham, I've even been to the Greyhounds. That's been really, really good. So I love an evening out or day out where you get to do that on your time off. But if I'm honest, at the moment I'm family in London, me in Nottingham. There's not many days I get where I'm not either at work or travelling to try and see the family and give them some of my time as well. So it's not been easy to have a hobby.
Dean Gollin, the eagle-eyed Dean Gollin, says, hi guys, firstly well done Neil on your award. Are the shirts behind you an inclination to tomorrow's team? No, they're just for effect, and the gaffer touched on the team selection a little bit earlier. Generally, there's going to be potentially a few changes because of a few tired bodies, but it'll still be a strong team that's going out to very much win the game and hopefully avoid a trip to Dagenham on Tuesday. An important point about that, actually, which we will be reiterating over the weekend, is if our game against if we go to a replay against Dagenham, that means the Tuesday game at Fylde is replaced by that replay. So it's just one for everyone at home to bear in mind that we may end up at Dagenham on Tuesday if a replay is required rather than Fylde. So one to bear in mind over the weekend.
So if the score's 1-1 with 10 minutes to go and I'm playing 5 up, you know why.
Yeah, but don't show that to the FA. Right, keep those questions coming in. We're getting absolutely loads of comments. There's 246 of you watching live. Neil, tomorrow, I believe it's the Dagenham manager McMahon's first game in the dugout, isn't it? I think I'm right in thinking. What sort of threat are you expecting from them? I suppose it's difficult to tell when a new manager's in the dugout.
Yeah, sometimes obviously they'll get a lift from the new manager, so that's one thing we'll have to be ready for. And obviously, you can look at all the recent footage, but the manager might have got on the training field and changed the shape and done loads of work on different things that he wants to apply, so you're never quite sure what you're going to get. So it's hard sometimes to focus on the opposition too much. You have to kind of say, right, this is what we do, we've got to be good at it, and if we're good at both sides of the game, then we're going to be competitive.
Yeah. I've just been corrected on the comments as well, so I do apologise to the supporters club who funded the scoreboards. Thank you to Iris and Mark, we really do appreciate it. So thanks for pointing that out to us, Julie. Keep the questions coming. Aaron May asks, are there any players in the academy or youth teams that you think could break into the first team over the next few years? Now, I suspect with this season being so busy, you haven't had a huge amount of time to watch much of the academy set up, but as a former academy manager yourself, I'm sure you're always keeping an eye on what's going on at the younger levels.
Yeah, very rarely do you have a player that can come straight out of under-18s football and be a first team player. It's extremely rare unless they've got really strong attributes in certain areas. So I think, at Wimbledon we had an under-23 set up that we haven't got here this season, although we've got a lot of our young players out on loan playing men's football. But there was players who had potential, but in year one wasn't ready. In year two were the best player in the 21s, but struggled when they were in around the first team, and that might have been socially. And then in year three they took off. So it's very, very difficult to know who's going to adapt to all of them things. Certainly we've had Max Colwell's first. He's up with the first team all the time. He's a young pro. We've had Tiernan, who's been up with us, who's done really great. The keeper in training. So we've had a few boys. Corey's been up with us and trained with us. So we've had a few boys come in and train. These boys, it's all potential. That's the beauty of the academy at the moment. It's potential. No one knows how they're going to develop or socially, mentally, physically cope with the next step.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of similar questions. Joshua Barnes and Steve Leaf. Any potential departures this window?
No, not that we're planning on. Another side, and I don't know how much people have paid attention to it, because fans are always more excited by the ones that come in to your club. But obviously we early on in the season, I think at one point we had 29-30 players on the books, and that was one of the most difficult things I faced last season, when we had about 32 pros trying to arrange training and cope with the players in the squad, out the squad, keep everybody happy, keep training at the level.
Yeah.
So one of probably the biggest things we've done this season is got people out on loan, got them playing. They've had moves, whatever, and that's not been easy, but it was a necessity for the club. It was a necessity to try and balance the books a little bit. Within the core squad that you see weekly, including the injured players now, there's no one we want to let go. If anything, if we're going to have a push at the playoffs and try and hang on in there, or try and go even higher, we'd want to push to add a little bit of a spark to us. Sometimes a fresh face makes all the difference. Just somebody coming into the building, people go, oh right, okay, is he looking to take my place, and the levels rise. But the most important bit of business we did, as we all know, this week was Colwell.
Absolutely. One other part of Steve Leaf's question, which is quite an interesting one. What about contract extensions? Because I'd imagine that a number of the lads are out of contract in the summer. When does that start coming into your thinking?
Well, it starts now. You have discussions now, but it's never easy. So let me put some scenarios into place. So we've got a great team spirit, right? Everybody's fighting for the cause. There's a common goal for everybody within the dressing room and the building, which is we want to at least get in the playoffs, and we want to have a push for promotion. That we want to bring some success. So for argument's sake, we've got, you're one of my players and you're out of contract in the summer, but you're doing really well at the moment. So we offer you a new deal, we agree it, we spend time agreeing it, you sign a new deal, we announce it.
Mm-hmm.
So you've now signed a new extension. So then the other player thinks, who's also out of contract, well, that means I won't be getting one because otherwise they'd have offered me by now. So now you lose all of that camaraderie, that spirit. People are looking out for himself instead of fighting for the common cause. So it's a very difficult balance to offer contracts out during the season. Obviously bringing Kyle here was, everybody said no, get him, we've got to have him in it. All the players would have said that, but then trying to extend contracts at a time when you're all trying to go towards a common goal starts to separate the group again. And the second thing is you just don't know how the season's going to pan out. You know, players that have been in good form now, their form might dip, they might be out of the squad, somebody else might come in and be better than them. You just don't know what's going to happen. So for me, you know, the message is you know, everybody, let's all fight for the common goal, because no matter what happens, if you get to the playoffs, if you get promoted, everyone wins. Everyone brings success to the club. Any player that, even if you decide that unfortunately we're going to move in a different direction at the end of that season, that player is likely to be a decent commodity. He played 35 games in a promotion winning team. That he'll get a good deal on the back of that, just as much as I said last season to the players when, you know, we didn't think that there was enough great attitude amongst the group, was, listen, if we get relegated, we all suffer. The club suffer, but every single one of us suffer, and people struggle to get deals because of it.
Well, you've just covered off obviously the contract extension, the reason behind not moving too fast on that. So I'll just twist Ryan Toklov's question slightly, which was, will you be looking at giving Doyle a year's extension? Do you think he's got another year in him? He certainly looks like he's got plenty in the tank to me. I
think physically, I mean, age is a number, as they say in the trade. We had it at Wimbledon with a lad called Danny Borman. Great lad, incredibly fit. I mean, ridiculous, could just run all day. And I signed him when he was 34. I think I signed him when he was 34. I think he's now 40, just turned 40, still playing for Crawley in League Two, still doing a great job. You wouldn't notice he was 40. And I remember speaking to Chrissy Wilder, he had him at Oxford, and he always used to say to me in the dressing room after the game, that was the biggest mistake I made, letting Bully go. So sometimes you think, oh, he's 33 now, is that him? And you didn't realise it's 7 more years, you know, and he's 7 more years of playing really well, covering a massive amount of games. Doyley is one, I still think if he come back next season, he'd be top of the running. He's played every game over Christmas. People don't realise sometimes Doyley's body is used to coping with it more than, say, Sam Osborne would be. Sam would be, he'd be feeling it by game 2 or 3. Doyley would be just ploughing through it because he's done it all his career. So there's no reason why Doyley shouldn't be playing football next season. Like I say, going back to it, Doyley would be the same as me. Let's get promoted and worry about it at the end. And that's where we are.
Not expecting you to reveal too much on the data side of things, but he must be pretty high on the average running distances per game, is he?
I mean, there's been games where, you know, he's covered over 12 kilometres a game. Most of the time he's in the top 2 or 3 for distance covered. Obviously, everyone's got different qualities.
Different roles.
Different roles. Of course it does. But if it's you know, sprinting, there'll be other players that might sprint bigger distances. But you know, the data's there just to marry up with what your eyes see and what the roles of the players are.
Yeah. Good question here from Ainsley Johnson Harvey. Thank you for the question, Ainsley. Neil, you're managing in the Champions League final, so first and foremost, congratulations.
Wow.
You can pick any player in the world to take the winning penalty. Who would it be? So who are you entrusting with that nervy moment?
This is probably a really strange answer.
You're not going to say yourself, are you?
No, definitely not going to say myself. I'd be, definitely not myself. Probably the way I've seen him take penalties, I'd probably say James Milner. And I know he's like, people might go, why not Messi or Ronaldo? But the other day, I watched him play for Liverpool. He come off the bench. I don't even think he touched the ball, and they earned a penalty. Yeah. And he walked on the pitch and slotted the penalty away. So I think he's got ice cold nerves as well. So, and he's technically very good.
Yeah, the nerves element of it is
the main thing.
Is huge,
I think he'd just stroll up and do what he does.
Absolutely. One of the more underrated players, him and Henderson, would you say?
Well, everyone I ever spoke to that's worked with him, you know, he's had some great moves, and he's one of these players. Like, again, it goes back to those that travel the ball and beat people, they're the ones that catch your eye, and other players don't catch your eye as much. We talk about Michael Doyle a little bit. You might not see the other stuff they do. James Milner, everyone's ever said to me, every club he's been at, when he was at Man City, when he was at Villa, he was at Liverpool, best trainer. Best trainer every single day. And you play him left back, centre mid, right mid, but best trainer.
Yeah, and he's similar. I've heard that he's very much at the forefront of pre-season running.
Yeah, sets the tone, in training, sets the everything, and you can't underestimate. So tomorrow's game, you might look and go, it's FA Trophy, and it's not as important as the league. People might have that in their mind. Well, you put Michael Doyle in the team. Yeah. And there's no chance anybody.
The attitude changes.
There's no chance anybody's going to be able to go through that game any other way.
Yeah. Question here from Mitch Wiley on a player who I've been massively impressed with, Alex Lacey. How much of a difference do you think he's made to our defensive performances?
I think it's easy. Listen, Alex has done great. So first of all, Alex is coming in, and Connell, the back four, and you need to put Sam Slocum in. That was some of the saves he's made.
Absolutely.
Have been fantastic. So it's easy to go, well, Alex has come in, we've kept clean sheets, it must be because Alex has come in. And whilst Alex has done great, I think the team has focused on it. We knew, I did a presentation to the players when we were having a little bit of a sticky spell, and we had 6 games on the trot, I think, where we conceded 2-2-3, 2-3 goals. And the only game we won was at Ebbsfleet in the Cup through that spell, where we scored 3 goals. Right. So we had to score 3 to win.
Yeah.
The logic tells you you're not going to win many games. So, and as a team, we were getting things wrong, and it wouldn't be whether it was Ben Turner in the team or Conor Rawlinson or Alex Lacey. It needed one player to lose their marker from a corner, Boreham Wood. The freak penalty given against us at Boreham Wood, the second goal. Things like that were costing us the points. Alex and Conor come in and done great, but I think the team has. Midfielders, wingers, centre forwards, everybody, because centre forwards have to come back and mark from set pieces. Everybody has seen their jobs through, and that's the reason why the results have turned. And therefore, you can go, oh well, Alex Lacey's come in. Alex has done brilliant, but it's the team does it. Whether Ben Turner's in, whether Alex in, the team keeps the clean sheet.
Absolutely. Keep those questions coming in. Just over 200 of you watching live, which is fantastic. Matt Tootle, question on him. This is from Lee Coates Kensett. Matt Tootle is a fan's favourite. Is there any reason why he has been overlooked? Also, who is the hardest on the lads, you or Coxey? Has Toots been overlooked in your eyes? What would your assessment of the situation be?
I don't know about overlooked. The season started, we had a pre-season. Dion Kelly-Evans, I thought, did great pre-season, really impressed me. So we signed him up, and I felt by the end of pre-season he had earned the right to be the right back or start the season that way. And then as the season wore on, obviously there was times where after that, like I said about the substitutes, the 5 subs, it was like, do you have a right back on the bench that really is a right back and might be able to fill in somewhere else, but it's not going to be natural, or do you try and cover all the positions you're going to need to cover? And then that found him out of the squad, and then Richard Brindley became available, or I was aware he became available, and he was potentially affordable for us. And Richard's one I've always liked. I liked him at Wimbledon. I wanted to sign him at Wimbledon, so it was one of these players. And I said to the owner straight away, look, can you have a look at Richard Brindley? I really like him. But straight away they come back, well, yeah, he's really high on the model, looks really good. And that was one that we got. So all of a sudden it just happened that because of the way we wanted to play with bombing right backs and stuff like that, it materialised that we ended up with 2 right backs, 2 left backs. And
sometimes it's just the case, isn't it, that a squad evolves in a certain way, and some players just fall out of favour, and
I always say to any of the players, I had a good chat with Ross recently, because frustration's not been a team. It's never personal. There'll always be a reason why, and that reason might be, I'm sorry you're not in the team, but he's playing really, really well, and I can't leave him out of the team at the moment, no matter how frustrated you are. Or it might be, I don't think you're training hard enough, I don't think you're in good enough shape, you don't look fit enough to me. You've got to get all these things right, because I'm not going to put you on the pitch and risk the result if you're not. So sometimes down to you, sometimes it's just a player ahead of you.
We often hear sort of managers explaining reasons why certain players are out of favour. Did you ever not train hard enough. Did you ever not show the right attitude in your playing career at any time?
Once or twice when I was younger, a little bit naive, you come in, but when I came through the ranks at Wimbledon, it was an extremely tough school.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And you're quickly whipped into shape. And
yeah.
I think everything now, society's changed, and work ethic. You have to ask people to work hard now compared to back in the day when it was natural. So there's been times I haven't been at the top of my game for various reasons, but one thing I've always done as a player and I always did as a manager was, I only needed to be told once, you need to get fitter, or you need this, or you need that, and I'd go and do it. I'd look in the mirror and go, yeah, he's right. I very rarely look to blame anyone else, and society's changed a little bit, and it's not a dig at any particular person. I just think society now is people want to be in the team straight away, and if they're not, they don't like it, and then you tell them what they've got to do to get in the team, but ultimately sometimes it's like, well, it's his fault. It's not, I'm sure I'm on the lips of a lot of parents or players or whatever, where they're not going to say, "Oh, manager don't like me." And the truth is, well, don't work hard enough in training, you're not in the right shape, he's in better form than you, he trains harder than you.
Tough things to hear, but at the end of the day, you've got to act on it, haven't you? Troy McKeegan, out of the signings, who's been the biggest surprise or the most improved player?
Out of all the signings, biggest surprise. I think probably not the biggest surprise as in I didn't think he'd be this good, but the player I think adapted really quickly and done great was Regan Booty.
Yeah.
It was amazing because the start of that first week of the season had been tough. We had a very small squad of players that were actually fit enough to play, and then we lost Jim O'Brien with the 3 games in a week. Jim's back and sciatica had gone. We had no midfield. Doyle had got suspended, Damien had got suspended. When you talk about it like that, and we had hardly anyone fit, you was like, oh wow. So we signed Regan. I struck the deal with Regan, who we'd been looking at anyway, but we made it a bit quicker because of needs must. And I spoke to him on the Sunday. He turned up on the Monday. He signed. He hadn't had much of a pre-season himself. Went straight into the Harrogate game and was outstanding and assisted the goal. And then since then, I think he's done great. Whether I've played him centre or left, he's done great. So I wouldn't say I was surprised by him, but I'd say in a real quick thing, he's the one that's come in and done really, really well.
Just before you move on, what's the latest on him with his?
He's improving. He's making good improvements. It's just one of these things that if you didn't go through the processes that physios are now, it would keep reoccurring. So we had to get everything right before we start stepping him into his work. And the thing with Regan as well, you get some players who are naturally quite fit and some players that need a bit more work. I always needed a bit more work, and I think Regan's one of them that will need a little bit more work to get him up to speed. So we'll get it right, and hopefully we'll have that good player back when we're having a push.
Most improved player this season then?
Most improved, I'd probably say Connell Rawlinson. I know he's an older player, but Sam Graham did magnificent at the start of the season, and we always forget about Sam because he's not here now. But
what a loss, by the way.
What a loss, and devastating to see a young lad in so much pain. He's come back since to one of our games, and he's a great lad. Lads love him, and the boy's got a future. And Connell, we was trying to rotate and bring Ben in, and Connell and him, and it took a bit of time to get that understanding. And then Coxie's done a fair bit of work with Connell just on body shape. There was 1 or 2 habits that Coxie was like, no, that's not going to give you a favourite's chance of doing the right thing. And he spoke to him about it, and as he's gone, I think Connor always said to me at the start of the season when I dipped him in and out or left him in, you haven't seen the best of me yet, Gaffer, and you haven't got myself going yet. And I was like, all right, no, there's no rush, just we're all working to get ourselves up to speed. But I think lately particularly he's really stepped up to the mark, and
the fans are really sort of seeing him as a bit of an icon now, isn't he? Because he seems to end up with end of every game, seems to end up with a black eye and a bandage. Do you think he's the sort of character that thrives off that status among the fans? Because he is, let's be serious, he is a head at kick at centre half, isn't he?
Yeah, and it's funny because he's in this league, that's got to be your priority with your centre halves. They've got to defend, and Ben Turner has always been, hardly ever loses a header, tackle, does his job, great influence around the place. And we're trying to educate him. We always say, like I said, when we keep a clean sheet, we defend from the front. If your centre forwards are lazy, if your wide men don't do their jobs, you're going to struggle to keep a clean sheet. So we put the onus. A lot of times I'll say to the players, you know, clean sheet starts up there. You guys are the most important people in us being good defensively. And on the flip side, the way we want to play, if we're going to retain the ball, if we're going to work through the thirds, centre halves are our most important players. So you actually spin it on its head. Because if centre halves keep getting it in long straight balls, we're not gonna get it. So we've educated. You say Connell's a headed kick at centre half. He is. He's quicker than he looks,
and he's comfortable on the ball.
And this is the thing. But we're educating him to try and be comfortable on the ball, to know when to step in when he can, to how to play through thirds, second striker passes, all the stuff that, you know, giving them all their options. So our players are kind of should have 4 options in their head every time they travel, so that we're all on the same page. Otherwise, it becomes off the cuff. And Ben and they're great. And there's times Ben will hit a channel ball, which is not what we particularly want. And I'll show him some video footage after, and I'll say, look there, but, and he'll go, yeah, brilliant, okay. And it's a habit that they might have had at a different club, and now you're educating them, and they want to do better.
Absolutely. Subject to one centre-back, loanee centre-back, we just touched on Sam Graham. Sam Stubbs got a really good loan move to Den Haag, where I believe Alan Pardew's manager, isn't he? Just a quick reflection on him, because he was outstanding, wasn't
It's quite funny you say that, because over the Christmas period I went back and me and my wife were doing a dump run. And I had an old tracksuit on, my hair was sticking up. You know, you don't have no nice jumpers. You don't ever dress up to do a dump run. I'm walking to the dump and I've heard odds, all right, and I sort of look around and go, oh no, who knows me at the dump? And it was Chris Powell.
Oh right.
He's gone with Alan Pardew, and it was actually then I was talking to him, and he said, oh, I'm going with Pards to Holland, and I said, yeah, see that, great. And a couple of days later, he messaged me, Sam Stubbs, what did you think? And I gave Sam, like you would, a glowing reference on how well he done for us. So it's great to see him go there. Great lad, young lad. He rang me after the season finished, a week after, and Coxie rang us both and thanked us for everything we'd done for him and how we tried to develop him. And then I think 2 days later his dad rang me and said, thank you for the way you treated my son and that. And you just think, you know, when you've got values like that, you're going to go a long way.
Yeah, just a shame it didn't turn out more positively, that, because there were a few, especially the players that came in back in the season, there were a few gems in there, weren't there, in terms of the characters. So wish Sam all the best in his loan spell over in Holland. Another Sam on the agenda. This is a question from Will Horton. Sam Slocum is Will's player of the season so far. I'd imagine many people would agree with you on that, Will. How much confidence do you think he's given the defence and the rest of the squad, Neil?
Yeah, you know, when we looked at goalies and we knew that Sam Slocum might be available at the time, we had no money and we couldn't sign anyone, we were thinking, please don't get snapped up, please don't. He was one that, he was always there as a possible, please don't get snapped up. And when we got towards the time and the owners took over, he was the first name we put in, look, Sam Slocum, we'd like to sign him, blah, blah. Reliability, what you want from a goalie, reliability, game saving saves, so games that saves that will win you the game at a moment that if you go behind it could go completely the other day. Calmness, composure, certainly the way we're trying to play, decision making with his quality from the back, when to play out, when he can switch through a centre half. I think he's bringing them all. People might not realise when we had that first week of the season and we lost to Barnet live on telly, you know, we came in the dressing room after, and as I come in, the first person who was giving the lads a bit of a dressing down was Sam Slocum. Right. You know, and he was saying, I haven't come here for mediocrity, I haven't come here to earn some money, I've come here to do something good, come here to take this club back to where it wants. We've got to change, we've got to make sure our attitude, and there was a lot of hangover from the year the season before in culture, in attitude, that took a while to get it round. And when you've got people like Sam Slocum, Michael Doyle, Ben Turner that drive the dressing room now and say, no, we work Monday to Friday, we put the shift in because it will pay off on a Saturday, as well as his saves, that's what he brings to the...
Yeah, can we just have a word for that save? It was Bromley, wasn't it, on Saturday? We've got an amazing... I've got to give a shout out to our club photographer Richie, who got an absolutely unbelievable photograph of it, which almost shows you that the fact that he almost flicks it with his fingertips out of that top corner, an unbelievable strike. You know, can you just talk us through?
We go through that. You could say so that one could make the game 1-1 a lot earlier. Solihull wins us free with the extra 2 points with an amazing save. I could probably count 12 throughout the season, and it's funny because the year I got promoted at Wimbledon, we were conceding too many poor goals, too many shots from distance, and we brought in Keller Roos, who's been playing in goal for Derby, and he made 2 or 3 incredible saves, one in particular in the playoff semi-final. They're as important as the striker who takes the one chance. Goals change games, and when you've got a goalie that keeps it out at one end, the team in the middle can do everything right, and then that one moment comes and you just need to say, can you do it for us? And regularly Sam has.
Well, we're on the subject of sort of defensive actions and strategies. It's a good tactical question from Stuart Edwards, and it's one that, you know, is relevant across the leagues really, because it's probably the biggest change in playing style that I've noticed as a football fan in recent years. What advantage does a short goal kick give you?
So a short goal kick playing out from the back basically means you're in control of the move. So you're not relying on a second ball or 50-50. The moment the ball's in transition on a fight ball or a percentage ball, it's all about the percentages. So if they're better than you or whatever, when we're trying to play it from the back, we know what we're trying to achieve. The opposition don't. So surely there's an advantage in that. We know that we're going to play out of one centre half, and if they try and get us locked across the side of the pitch, we've got patterns that should be able to get us out to the other centre half, and then for him to be able to step in. And at that moment, then we've got movements where a fullback will go, a wide man might come off the line, you know, all different patterns that we work on. But now we're in control of our move, and the shorter passes you build down, the more reliability there are of getting there. Whereas if you open up and you hit, or a goalkeeper hits one long 70-yard punt, and their centre halves are absolutely dominating your centre forward, because centre halves are good in the air, and pumping it back down the pitch, then you're relying on where that ball drops, and are they going to be back on the attack? And you know, all I'd say is there was games, I think when we played, I can't remember if it was Hartlepool, I think Torquay in the second half here, where we did lose our way a little bit in our passing and went direct and lost second balls, and I could show you 5 really good chances the opposition had against us, because it became percentage and the opposition managed to do the percentages a bit better than us, and before you know it we were open, out of shape and attacked. And you know, you go back through, I know it's Man City and it's Liverpool and they're better players, but Man City and Liverpool dominate the ball, and the opposition can't score when you've got the ball. Sometimes you might think it's a bit risky, but that's the nerves within it. Don't think that I don't feel them nerves at times when we're playing out from the back, because you know one pass is going to go wrong. But I think the most important thing is, if I looked at last season, I said to you 3 different managers came in last season. What was the identity of the team? How did they play? Were they all on the same page? The answer is no. At no stage of the season. If you look at this season and say, is there a bit more of an identity? Do the lads look like they're all, when they get it, even when they get it wrong, they all got an idea of what we're trying to achieve? I think yes, more often than not.
There you go, great answer there. Another question from Ainsley. Some fans might not like this question, but would you say our relationship with clubs like Derby and Forest are improving?
Yeah, I think absolutely. And I don't think football needs to be. I know you have rivalries, and I know sometimes there's clubs that you just don't like because of history, but I don't think it needs to be like that. I don't think you need to be hated or niggly with everybody. There might be the odd rivalry, and I know for certain there is clubs that there is a rivalry of here. I certainly sense that when we beat Mansfield for the first time in, I think it was 14 odd years.
That was a good day.
Yeah, it was a good day, and for me it was pretty special, because my first proper game was Mansfield away, and they were in a good place, we weren't, and they beat us comfortably, and their players celebrated like mad afterwards. And I sort of took that with me and said, can I get this team into a place to be able to beat them in 2 or 3 months' time? So personally, to be able to do it and then see the reaction of the fans was incredible. I think I look at Nottingham Forest, and I certainly know from dealings we've had with them with the training ground and stuff, I think that's a different relationship. And I know there might be some people that go, well, we're in the same city, we're rivals, but you know, I look at Nottingham Forest and Notts County, and I think they can almost be brothers. And the relationship can be that way, because I think there's certainly a lot of people from the city who want the city to do well.
Yeah, great answer. We've been going over an hour now, so we'll wrap this up shortly. So if you've got any burning questions, get them in. We'll do 2 or 3 more for Neil. Kimbo Ratbag Walser, who's always a regular on the Facebook Live. Kimbo, great to see you piping up. Thanks for the friend request on Facebook the other day, by the way. I look forward to seeing all of your Facebook content going forward. If you get us promoted, you and Coxie, Neil, can have any cake from birds. So that's a statement, and then the question is, who do you look up to manager-wise and why?
I think there's probably a couple of people that manager-wise, a few people that I look up to. There's a coach, Terry Burton, who was my coach at Wimbledon. Doesn't manage anymore, but he was manager at Wimbledon. He used to work at Arsenal. He's been the biggest influence on my life as far as a player and a coach, how he developed me. I think Chris Wilder I look up to because he's managed from the National League.
Yeah.
I played against him regularly. His teams were almost so hard to play against. Always got his teams at it, and to have somebody, and I got on well with him afterwards in the manager's office and stuff, and to have somebody who's managed all the leagues with his humility and class, and to take a team up there and into the Premier League, carrying on doing it the way he's doing, all about graft and work and team spirit as well as good football. It makes me quite proud that I've pitted my wits against him regularly. And the last one probably from coaching courses, and people have been on, Roberto Martinez has been on coaching courses, and just one of the most intelligent, eloquent, warm people. I could sit and listen to him for hours, and no surprise he's doing such a great job with Belgium.
Couple more. Sam Osborne's 21st birthday today. If you haven't already seen our 21 questions feature with Sam, it's a really lovely insight into his personality, and it shines a light on his own footballing development and some silly questions like what's his best birthday present. It's worth a watch, so find it after we're done with Neil. The question is from Ian Laxton. Do you think fans' favourite Sam is ready to play every week?
You never know, things could take off, and possibly not at the moment. And that's the hard thing. I talk about that saying, unconscious bias. He's a fan's favourite, so people are disappointed if I don't pick him, but I'm not doing it. It's not a personal thing. It's because of part of the development. You've got to remember, I see him every day in training. I saw him every day last season. I know where he is. I know what he's capable of. But how often is he capable of it? And he done great. His best game by far was Maidenhead at home.
Yeah.
And I look at it, guys would look at it, he scored a goal. If you go back to the Bournemouth game, scored a fantastic goal, but that was it.
Yeah.
The rest of the game was short of where it needed to be, and we had a video analysis to go through all of that. Fans won't see that, they'll just know the goal. Why is he not playing? Maidenhead, great. So he needs to be dipped in and out.
Yeah.
If he carries on, if he does great, and he gets a lot more of his decision making right throughout the third, both with and without the ball throughout the thirds, and the team's regularly better with him in it ahead of anyone else, then I've got a decision to make whether physically and mentally he can cope. But at the moment, I think that side of the game's still developing before we even get to the physical and mental.
Can you understand why there is such a clamour for Sam to play? Obviously, he's come through the academy. He scored a couple of great goals, got an important assist or two as well. Can you understand fans who don't look into as much detail and don't see as much? Can you understand why there is that clamour?
Listen, everyone's been a homegrown player somewhere.
Yeah.
I was a homegrown player at Wimbledon. I got through the ranks, got into the first team. I then became their manager and got them promoted. So that's a fairy tale story for me personally. So, and when I was at Wimbledon, and again, I'm not anti-youth. When I was at Wimbledon in over a 6 years period, I think something like 17 academy players were given their debuts and played for the first team. Some were given their debuts and ended up not quite being good enough in the end. They couldn't keep their consistency and they probably weren't at the level. Others have been. Will Nightingale was 18 when I gave him his debut. He's a centre-back. I've given a goalie a debut at 19. I've given Ryan Sweeney a debut at 17. It's another centre-back. It's not like I've played a 17-year-old centre-forward because he's up the pitch and it doesn't matter. I've played centre-backs, left-backs, right-backs.
Yeah.
Toby Sibic, who's at Barnsley, I gave him his debut. So I've got no qualms, if they're old enough, if they're good enough, they're old enough, all that kind of stuff. But I don't look at personal favourites. I don't look at whether fans are going to have the ump with me. I look at what do I think's the best team to win this game, who's trained well during the week. Fans won't see stuff like that. There's times I've been criticised before when a player's been carrying a niggle and they've criticised me, but they didn't know that he was carrying a niggle. Or there's been times where his attitude in training, not Sam's, but somebody's attitude in training might not be good, or he hasn't trained well. And I'm not going to come out in the press after and go, well, he's been rubbish in training, because people go, why is he having a go at his own players? You have to understand there's a reason behind everything.
It's a massive balancing act. It really is. I think we're done with the questions. There's just a few nice messages to wrap things up. Ian Fuller says, just wants to thank you, Neil, for all your efforts to date. Nancy Littlewood, no question, Neil, just keep up the brilliant work. David Martin, just want to say thank you for everything you've done for the club. Obviously, this Manager of the Month award, which is very well deserved. Congratulations once again for those of you just tuned in. Neil mentioned it at the start of the broadcast. If you want to rewind and see that, obviously that's, you've hit the headlines for this evening. But I think you've probably noticed yourself over the last few weeks there's been more and more support for you after what I'm sure you'd admit was quite a difficult back end of 2019 overall. How much are you really starting to get your teeth stuck into this job and seeing Notts County for the positive and exciting and huge potential of the club it is?
I've got my teeth stuck into it from the moment I come in, but sometimes it doesn't work. In a positive sense. Yeah, of course it is. But the support's come and there's been nice comments, and we've won. I say me and the staff and the players have won Manager of the Month. It's results.
Yeah.
Results bring positivity. The good feel around the club comes if the first team are doing well, and that's what's happened. And if we don't have a great January, it'll be it was a flash in the pan. It can be spun on its head. There'll be people that sort of say, it's football, and there'll be other people that will react to it with emotion, which is what happens, and it's natural. So I don't know where it's going to go. No one knows what the future holds. I do believe we've worked really hard to put a team together with the will, the mentality, the attitude to give us a chance of being in and around the playoffs by the end of the season. If it doesn't happen, it won't be for the want of trying from any of us. But I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the good feel. All I've seen is the fans feeling down since I've been here. Yeah. Certainly through last season and the end of last season at Swindon was a horrible feeling for me as well as them, and the summer. So I'd love more than anything to see them all jumping for joy at the end of the season.
I was going to say that because there's been a lot of praise for the staff and for the players and for the owners for everything that's happened over the last month or so, and obviously all through the summer as well. But how good have the fans been? I mean, Solihull, the atmosphere there throughout the game. Obviously, the chant that was devised and was sung, on the Kop.
I want to know who come up with that. Who was the person that come up with that song?
Let us know.
Find out. Whoever. There'll be loads of people saying because I can't even listen to that song on the radio now, and I know the words to most songs, and I end up getting to the end of that chorus on the radio singing Solihull Away, and it does it to you.
But they've been brilliant this season, haven't they? And we can't forget. Obviously, as staff, we've been through a tough time through that summer, but. Fans at one point of Notts County were watching their club die from afar, weren't they? We know that. So they deserve huge credit, don't they?
Yeah, they deserve huge credit, but they also deserve success. They deserve a management team and a group of players to give absolutely everything to try and bring that to them. It doesn't work that way. It's football all the time, but they're getting that, and I can assure you, there's a lot of players in here who aren't going out and playing or turning up every day because this is the club that would pay them the most. And that probably wasn't the case last season, so they've got a group of people that genuinely want to do well for them, and hopefully they will.
Final word, tomorrow 3:00 the players will just be coming out to go and take on Dagenham in the FA Trophy. We know that it's not necessarily at the top of everyone's agenda, this competition, but in terms of momentum, nothing would be more priceless than a victory tomorrow, would it?
Yeah, we want to try and keep that run going where you look back and you can say we haven't been beaten. Winning becomes a habit, not losing becomes a habit. So, and again, it's early round, same as the FA Cup. You might not get excited in the first round qualifying, but you do if you get to round 2 and you've got a chance of that tie. Same will be here at the moment. It's just the early rounds, but if all of a sudden you're there and you're like, well, we're nearly at the semi-final stage now, and Wembley's only a couple of games away, then the groundwork's done and the buzz starts. So tomorrow's part of that process.
Neil, many congratulations once again to you and the players on the award. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you back at Meadow Lane for tomorrow, Dagenham in the FA Trophy.